Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for attending our virtual paint night tonight. I now would like to introduce our host and painter for the night, our adult services librarian, Brianna Moore. Take it away, Brianna.
Thank you, Karen. Hi, guys. Good evening. Thank you for joining us today. Tonight, we'll be making a very relaxing flower arrangement. That's what we're going to be focusing on today. But what you first see is a list of supplies that we're using for today. So if you've gotten a kit from the library, you're working with an 8 by 10 canvas, a panel where we don't have the stretched canvas. You also should have two different paint brushes of various sizes, acrylic paint. You guys should have received your own pack of paint with 12 colors. I received the same one, so if you notice something's different, please let me know, but we can always make adjustments and mix our colors to match. You also should have palette paper, 2 sheets. You may only need one because we're not using too many colors. And then a cup of water. I have a cup of water and I also have an empty cup to dump out and put in clean water because I don't like to work with dirty water sometimes. And then you're going to need a napkin or paper towel to get some of the excess water off your brush if it gets too runny. For your palette paper, just keep in mind if you feel like it's moving, tape it down to where your surface is. And then also make sure you're working on a surface that's either covered. I'm working on one of my tables anyway, so there's always paint on it. But please protect tables with newspaper, plastic cloth, whatever you can, or if you don't mind, you can paint on your table. But that's just for the supplies so far. If anyone feels like they're missing something, please let me know and I can tell you what an alternative that you can use. If you don't have palette paper or um, or you didn't receive it, you can also use a if you have a paper plate, you can use that. If you have what else am I thinking? Sometimes I work on a piece of cardboard, but any if you work on a piece of cardboard, piece of paper for like your mixing your paint, just be mindful your paint will dry up a little faster and the paint will seep through the paper or the cardboard. But that's if you don't or you don't have your palette paper. So it's 7:07. I'm going to close out the supplies. Again, this is recorded. So if you guys have any questions or you want to look at this again, it will be uploaded on the library YouTube page. Okay, so if you guys see, this is what we're working with today. We're making this beautiful arrangement with the vase on this light gray background and on like this darker gray table. And I have my palette here. This is mine. I have my brushes and we are using these colors here. I have lemon yellow, Azarian, Alizarin crimson. We're just gonna call it crimson. We have Viridian, Booker's green, ultramarine, and black. So we do have black here. We're not going to use too much of it because it's really powerful. All right, so let's get started. And if I'm moving too fast, please let me know because sometimes I can talk fast and because I enjoy painting and I get really painterly, things just happen pretty fast. Okay, so let's start with mixing our paint. We are going to need white. We're going to start with our background first. So we're going to get our white. You won't need too much. This tube should last you for this whole painting. So try to just be cautious of how much you're using. And what you're going to do is to puncture your paint. If you look, I don't know how close I can get, but the tip has the top has a point where you can just point down and get your paint out. So we're going to start with some white. I try not to use too much paint because I don't like it to dry and I feel like I'm wasting paint, but that's just me. And then we're going to get a little bit of our black. We're going to add a little more black later. So start small and then we can always work in more. Like I even think it's like a speck. You can barely see it, but it will be good. And we're just going to mix those together and we're going to start with our background. I'm going to wet my brush but I also, like I said, paper towel to get the excess water off, and let's start mixing. I see that I froze. Sorry, guys. Okay. And we're going to start. So we're going to do about 2/3 of the canvas in just this lighter gray. It will dry darker, so just keep that in mind. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of make like a line to know where to stop. And if you guys hear like a little snoring in the background, that's my cat. He's sleeping here. I'm like, what is that noise? I'm going to add more white because I realize I want this a little bit lighter. Feel free to do the same if you wish. As one of my painting preferences is that I like streaky color, so I don't mind when there's some variation, like, oh, I see it's a little darker, or I see some white. I kind of like that style. So what we're going to do is you're just going to go in up and down motions because we're creating the wall. So please do the same. If you think your paint is too thick on your canvas, you can always just dip a little bit of water just to get it moving around, to move the paint around. But again, when you're finalizing the background, just remember to you want your brush strokes to go up and down. Like I can already tell I'm gonna need to make more of my light gray, and that's totally okay. And just being mindful of how much paint you're using. Because what's great is that if we have leftover, white's always white and black, typically white is always the first tube to run out. And if we can always have a little bit left over, you guys can paint some more at home. You can paint on, if you have paper, sometimes like regular print paper, that's not the best, but if you just want to paint just for the sake of painting, do it up, but at least you have some leftover paint. Like I'm going to definitely have to make more, so let me do that. And because I know I'm making more, it may not match, that's okay, we'll make it work, we'll blend it out. It's still a little too dark, it's almost the right color. If you happen to have a palette knife, you can always use a palette knife, but for the sake of our program today, we're just focusing on using our paintbrush because that'll be enough. Just so we can all see what's going on. And I get as close as the edge as I can get. My lamp is really bright, so I'm just trying to make sure. And again, we're going up and down motions because we're creating that backdrop. We're creating the wall. Okay, now we're gonna do the bottom half. Now with a little more black, it all depends on if you don't need to add any more white to your palette, don't waste any more paint because we're gonna need more white for our flowers. I'm gonna add some more, but so back again, darker than the wall that we just painted, because it's going to be the table. We want the contrast. And I'm telling you, you only just need like a speck of the black because it's just so powerful. So let's see. And sometimes I'm like, oh my gosh, it's not dark enough, but it's acrylic paint. It typically dries darker. So I'm just dipping my paintbrush in the water because I want this to move better. It is a little watery right now, but I'm okay with it because I can always add more. So if you think your paint just got too watery because you dipped it in the water to move it around, that's okay. We can always add more paint. I always feel like paint kits should always come with like an extra tube of white because of how, depending on what like the type of painting you do, you're always going to need a little more white than you need, than what they give you. And some paint kits, if you ever paint kits will have a it's called like an unbleached titanium. So it's like kind of looks like a cream almost, but those are kind of some of the fancier ones where they give you an extra white because sometimes adding white to a color will make it too pale. So that's why they add another white, but that's just a helpful information in case you're curious. So for the bottom, what I'm doing, instead of going up and down, I'm going to the left and the right. And I'm going to dip a little more water in just to move my paint around. Because the goal is not to see, because you know how your canvas has texture to it. We're trying to make sure we don't see that texture. And if you do, just keep on painting, maybe dip your paint in the water a little more just so you can get it to move around and so forth. There's typically a lot of paint on the brush, it's just we don't think there is. But sometimes who wants to paint a spot forever? So I was like, yeah, we need more paint. So I'm almost there. Again, I use my white so sparingly. I'm gonna make some more. If you have any questions so far, you can type it in the chat. I'm not afraid to touch my canvas. I usually don't mind getting, ooh, my thing froze, I'm sorry, hold on. I realized I froze, okay. So I'm just finishing up with the bottom, the one, at least like the third of it. And again, I'm going back and forth because I'm going in a different direction than the wall that we just created. And like I said, I'm filling in some spots where I see on the canvas that's kind of peeking through. I don't like that, so, and I'm just cleaning up this edge. Okay, so we are good with our background. If you would like, I kind of added mine later, well, afterwards, after I did my flowers. So you have the option, because what I'm gonna do is on our original painting, which I will show you. Oh, please clean your brush when you have the chance. Remember, wipe off any excess water. And I have a paper towel over here that I'm helping on. So, so for the original, this is what we're doing in case anyone who's joined late, this is what we're going to be creating today. So we have our background, but what I did was after I created this side, I realized I want some more contrast in the back. So I did like this like light blue streaks in the back just to give it some more flair. So we can add that later. All right, so our next thing, what we're going to do, we're just going to make sure our background is drier before we put down one of our flowers. It's almost there. What I love about acrylic, it dries fast. If you would like to work with something more sophisticated, I mean, all the paints are You can do great things with watercolor, gouache, acrylic, but oil is kind of like the, yeah, I think it's considered like the master of paints because you can work slow, but also depending on the paint, you can work pretty quick because there's different agents you can use to thin out the paint. But acrylic dries fast, so you won't have to wait too long. If this is your, I'm sure because this is Oceanside, and you got Oceansiders are awesome, especially for paint nights. You all know how this works. So we won't need that anymore. And we're going to start with our yellow flower that we did. I probably feel like I should keep the other picture on here, but my screen isn't big enough for you guys to see. Again, so if your paint's not open already, please do so by just poking the top. Now I'm just using this pure yellow. I'm not going to be mixing it just yet to make like an orange. We're just going to start with the yellow. And with your medium-sized brush, for me, that's this one. It's not that big because we're not working on a large canvas either. And I'm just kind of loosening it up and dipping in the water. What we're going to do is make our circles. We're going to start with our roses. So I made 4. I'll put it right here. I know you guys won't be able to see it, but if you guys want a reference, I can always put out later. So I'm going to start with a few circles, few yellow circles. You can make them bigger ones. So I'm going to do like one smaller, medium, nothing too big. So we have our one. I also like having one off to the side. That's pretty fun. You don't have to see the whole thing, but we know it's there. And then one in the middle. And then I like to do another one kind of close to the bottom. It's a little smaller. Once it dries a little bit more, we can also put another layer and pack on that paint. That's fine. I'm the type of painter, I love seeing thick paint. It's my favorite. I went to, I believe it was in the MoMA, and they had some of Van Gogh's artwork. It was just so cool to see the thick applications of paint, and I've always just loved seeing a lot of paint on my canvas. Okay, clean your brush, and we're gonna go create. It's kind of like I guess you could say it's like a stylized hyacinth. So what we're now doing is remaking. So we made our base for the roses, and now we're going to be making these. So we're going to start off with our blue paint, and we have it as it's the darker blue. It's ultramarine. We're going to open that up. Make sure your brush is clean. You may have to add more blue to your palette, but you can do that as you go along. And now for this part, I find this really like the most relaxing part because it really is just kind of placing it. So we're going to start off with our first stylized hyacinth, and what you're going to focus on is trying making like a cone. So I'm going to make my first one right here, and I'm literally just patting it, like making like dots. And I'm focusing on like a cone-like shape. We're going to add more depth to this with purple and white, but for right now, we're just kind of laying it in. I think on the original one that I did, I was using a larger brush, but I wanted to try a smaller brush this time. Just to see where that goes. It's almost like a teardrop shape. You can kind of think of it like that, just to start you off. And if you feel like, oh man, it's kind of like too small, we can always add more volume, and that's what I usually do at the end. So that's the first one. And now we're going to go into the upper left-hand corner. We're going to add some more here. Again, we're going to do like a teardrop shape up into the corner. And I'm not focusing on filling it up too much, only because we're going to add more. Like I said, the purples, the white, and like I use globs of paint. I don't mind it. I kind of love it. But be mindful, if you do, your paint will mix. But I always think that brings out a really nice effect. We're going to do one down here. We're kind of going to do it like behind our little circle at the bottom. So try to just go around it.
Hey, Bree, what was the color blue again that you said?
The blue is an ultramarine. I don't know if you guys can see what that says.
Great, thank
So,
you. We just missed the name.
no problem. And then I also had another one kind of hidden in here. Okay, so we have our blue. And now we're gonna go for the red, so we can clean your brush. Like I'm almost about to change this water, but it's okay. All right, so the red, we're gonna go for our crimson. You should only technically have like one reddish looking color. You might have like a vermilion, or birdseed is more of a brown, but we're looking at this one. So I'm gonna bring this one over. And this is the color we have next. Again, pierce it with the top. We're pretty much working with mainly our primaries, so that's good. And red is such a potent color. I feel like sometimes I don't need a lot. All right. And we're going to do the same thing that we did with the blue with the red. So we're going to make like a cone like teardrop shape. And we're just laying in kind of like the background because we're going to build it. We're going to, with our clean medium-sized brush, we're going to do the same thing. So let's begin. And I'm just laying this in the back of this circle over here. And we want to make it hang a bit. Again, I use globs of paint, but that's just my style. And now I want to point down here, so I'm just doing that. And I just touched a little bit on my yellow, that's okay. I also have another one over here, so I'm just kind of filling in some corners. So I did put some here. We have another one just right below, not too big. Again, kind of like a teardrop shape, cone-like. And then I also put another one right here. Okay. I think I want this one to dangle a little bit more. Okay. So we're going to leave this area alone for a little bit. We're going to focus on making our stems. I'm going to clean out my water. If you would like to do so, please change out your water. I have an empty cup, which I'm just going to dump the dirty water in here. If you have a napkin, your napkin soaked with water, change out all your stuff. You can do that. All right. My yellow. Next, we're going to focus on our greens. So I'm just making sure we're all dry down here. Again, if you we're painting and it kind of gets into one of the other colors, that's okay. We can work with that because if anything, it kind of makes that um, kind of stick out a little more. I'm just kind of watching. I have my cat here with me, and it looks like he's about to jump on the table, and I really hope he doesn't. No, he's good. Okay. You might see a little pause. And if you do, I'm so sorry. I can't control him. He wanted to be in here with me. Okay. So with your smaller brush, I'm not sure the brush that you guys have. This is my smallest one. I do have a smaller one, but this is good enough. If you don't have like a cone or a pointy like paintbrush, if I can hold it closer, I don't know if it's gonna focus. You can also use, if you have a square brush, that's fine. If you're using the square brush, let me pull one out for you. Square, square, square. Let me just find one. Out of all the paintbrushes, I still can't find a square one. What's the dealio? Anywho, I had one, moved it away. Oh, here it is. If you have a square paintbrush in your pack, just focus on like the line. So instead of like going this way, you're gonna get that bold line. You're gonna use just like the thinnest side of it. Okay, sorry if I'm not focusing, but that's if you have the square one. Okay, so for our greens, they give you 2 greens. We can use both. I think it'll actually be pretty cool to use both. So these are our greens. We have a hooker's green and then Viridian. So one's cooler, one's warmer. We're just gonna open our paint. Green, you're not gonna need too much of. So I'm actually going to start with this one, which is a really pretty color. Green is actually my favorite color. And those are green. All right, so like I said, with your, I'm telling you, these brushes sometimes look the same. With our smallest brush, you're gonna dip it in some more just to loosen it up. And we're gonna make our lines for our stems. I'm not gonna put too much paint on my paintbrush. We're just gonna focus on the tip. You can see that there's not too much on there compared to the other one. And we're just gonna make these wispy lines going down. They can be kind of curved, that's okay. So again, we're just making this line. If you feel like it kind of thins out, just add more paint to your paintbrush. So there's one. I'm gonna add a few more. However many lines you want to put for your stems, that's up to you. And I noticed because like this is pretty dark, or at least it looks dark to me right here because of the light, I'm gonna add more paint. And I'm gonna go in another direction. So we're gonna do that here. And I'm gonna put another right here. To give it some variation, I'm actually gonna mix a little of the yellow that we use for the rose. And I'm just gonna add some green into it. And you can see it really brightens that up, which is nice. And I'm just gonna add it to maybe some lines I already did, just about here. And you know, I want another one. I'm gonna put one right here. I feel like it's empty. So we're just making the stems. And I mixed, for this color, I mixed the, where was it? The hooker's green with the lemon yellow. And I just wanted some variation. If you can see that there. It's a little darker, so I'm just gonna add like a streak. Good. If you want to make your green darker, just add a little more blue and a touch of blue, because whenever you're mixing like this green and you want to make it darker, you don't need too much of a blue to bring it out. I always use it sparingly and build up on it because you don't want it to, you want to have some control. So I'm just making a darker green for my stems. I have a lot of paint on my paintbrush. You probably can't see it, so I'm just going to try to get some of it off without washing it off. And I'm just going to again, bring out some of the lines, bring out some of the stems. You don't have to, like, I'm going on just like the outside of it. All right, I'm gonna clean this and we're gonna add some green, some stems also, like greenery on top. Again, let's try a different color. We're gonna see what this viridian looks like. If you don't want to use this color, you like the other green, go for it. Stick with what you like for right now. All right, so this one, we can see how this color looks. A little cooler. And we're just gonna put some flicks at the top. So just like so. You put another one down here. I also have one randomly in here. So this one we're just gonna kind of insert here. I know it might not look like it's gonna make a difference, but it's gonna be cool. And I actually have it going into the rows, and that's fine. That's totally fine. And I'm gonna put some down here as well. Again, these are just like flicks. These are just our leaves. There's some at the bottom. I think I want to lighten this one up. Let me see what it looks like with this yellow. Kind of, again, I like to just experiment with color to see where it goes. We're going to add, in the original, there's like some wispies on the sides. We're going to add those later after we build up on our flowers here. Okay. And I'm going to add another one. Okay. We're going to clean our brushes. And now we're going to do our vase. I think we're ready for that. I think we are. So I'm trying to figure out, do I want to add? See, I'm looking at my painting. I'm like, what do I want to add more? But we can always add tack on later. So I'm not too worried about that. Okay, our vase. So if you still have white paint on your canvas, mine just dried up. I'm looking at it. I'm like, yeah, that's not going to work. Add some more white paint. It's okay if it's on your gray. It's all good. Your gray actually should be dry if it's on your palette paper. So we're just going to take some white paint. If you, again, try to focus on just using the tip of your paintbrush, and we're going to draw the shape of our vase. So I'm just going to make the shape. If it's too faint, I'm going to build it up more. So just be patient with me. And I'm just going to give it like this nice curved vase shape. So again, we're using our white and we're just making our vase. And I'm going back in with the white just to give the lines some more definition. And then what I also did was I took kind of a little bit of the blue and I'm kind of like making this idea that there's water there. So I'm gonna clean this out and I'm just gonna use a touch of blue and I'm just gonna make like this. I'm going back and forth, just like a zigzag. Just make like this blue. And I think this time I'm gonna focus on just making this a little brighter, just like so. Okay. And we're pretty much good with our vase. We're gonna go back in later and add some white to our stems. Just so, again, I like the contrast and variation. Okay, next, we're gonna go back in with our flowers. So let's go back to rows. So with your white, actually, let's try like a little bit of an orange. So if you already have your yellow here, if you have enough, I'm sorry, I realized my screen froze. Let's see. Oh, okay, screen unfroze, perfect. So I still have yellow here, and we have our red. We're gonna try for this orange. I have a little green on here, but that doesn't bother me. If you wanna have a pure yellow, put some more yellow on your palette. And again, a touch of red. And I'm going to just mix that around. So we're going to focus on the center of our circle. So what I'm going to do is I'm kind of making like these curves. It kind of reminds me of parentheses, and we're just going to focus on these curves. I'm using like the thick side of the brush and like a small side because we're going to add layers to this. So right now we're going to go with our orange. I need more paint on mine. Let's dip in some water just to get the paint moving. Okay, so we have our orange. We're going to clean that up, clean our brush. Get some of that water off. And now we're just going to go back in with some white. We can still work on it while it's wet. That's fine. It actually will make something pretty cool. And again, I'm making these curves, so kind of like these parentheses. Because if you look at the like a rose, you can see all of its layers, and we're just going to do a little bit of that. So again, with your white, we're just going to kind of give some more definition to these flowers. Like this one down here for your tiny one. Just try to make a nice line with your paintbrush. Okay. And now to build that up a little bit more, we're going to use with the tip of your paintbrush, however, whichever one you're using. I'm going to pretend like it's a pencil or a pen. And ooh, this one still has too much on it. We're going to kind of add some lighter lines to keep. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it's like really faint. Let me see if I can bring that closer. I add like a white here, like a line here. We're just doing that. We're just giving it some depth and variation. Put some here. And maybe some on the outside. Okay, that is for our roses. I don't know if we're gonna add any more to that, but we'll see. Clean your brush, and we're gonna go back to our lovely looking hyacinths. So what we need to make is a purple. We don't have a purple in ours, so what we're gonna do is just mix red and blue. So I always start off with more red. Oh, sorry, there's a pause. I'm just waiting. I'm looking at the screen and okay, there we go. So we're gonna go in and make our purple. So I have some red here. I still had some red that didn't dry up. We're gonna take some blue again. I don't use a lot of blue at first, but depending on how much red you have, and we're gonna mix this together. We're gonna try to get a nice darker shade of red here. I want more of a purple, so we're gonna need more blue. I have a lot of paint in my paintbrush. All right. So this is a good start. I want to go darker. Let's go darker. I'm not afraid. Okay. Again, if you have a lot of paint in your paintbrush, you can just always smooth it out on your palette. You can clean your paintbrush and start fresh. Having the excess paint on my paintbrush. So with this darker shade of red, almost purple, we're going to go in and build up on our flowers. So if you see what I'm doing, I'm just making these dots. I'm putting them out around pretty sporadically. And I'm actually also sort of beefing up this flower because there's some spaces that I want to fill up. So we're just going to focus on there. We're going to do it for the other red too. So I know we have this red in the corner here. So I'm not going to add too many, but just enough. And fill that in. And putting some more down here because I don't mind. Again, we're going to go back in. I have a lot of paint in my paintbrush. We're going to go here. You can do like small dots, bigger dots, but it's just to create some more of this depth. Let's see, I want a little more here. Okay, and we're gonna do the same for down here. I'm really focusing on putting them sort of at the base of it. I consider this the base. Yeah, the base like right here. And we're just going to put some dots through. I'm even having the darker dots go to the bottom. That's perfectly fine too. And I'm just filling some ones here. I don't know, guys. I might add another flower. We can always add another flower. So I like trying to fill up the space. Okay. Let's put some here. I want a little more. Again, teardrop cone-like shape. That's what we're focusing on. I think I want a little more here. Let's see how I feel here. We're going to beef that up. Okay, so we're going to clean our brush. Hold it down. We're going to give it a good washing. Okay. We need more blue because we're going to need a darker shade of the blue. So if you still have this left over, some of this reddish purple, that's fine. We're going to build up on it. We're using, again, the Ultramarine blue. I'm sorry, I see that I froze a little bit. There we go. I still have some red on my palette, so I won't really have to refill that. And I'm mixing it to the color that we already have here, but I'm just making it a richer, darker blue, purple. Because you can see how like this is with the red and the blue, this is more blue with the red. And now we're going to go in with our darker color for the blue. Again, with dots sporadically, because we still want to see the blue underneath. And I want to fill this in more. Okay. You know what? I want to add some to the tip over here, if that works. We're going to do the same for this side. I need a little more blue. I'm going to mix it with this combination that I have here. I'm just going to get the right shade, the shade that I want, as long as it's darker than the blue. And I'm just going to drop some here, some dots here. And I'm going to put some here. I'm looking at it. I'm like, do I want to add anything? I want to make this a little bigger. So that's just me. So I'm going to make this pop out more. I might even do some down here the same. So I'm going to clean my brush just because I want this to have some more volume. And I'm cleaning my brush, and let me add, I'm actually going to go in with the red and just put some more red in there. Do some more dots, especially right here. So I'm back in with the red, just trying to beef it up because I want it to have more volume. Okay, we're almost there. Just a few more other minor details. We need to add our white. And then, like I said, if you want, I'm going to do it. You don't have to. You can leave your background. If you love your background, don't touch it. But for me, I'm just going to probably add like some more details in the back. Next, let's do our white. So I kind of want to go back into these stems. So if you still have green on your palette and it didn't dry up, get some of your green. You're not going to need too much. And some white. I'm just pulling a little bit of white. I don't know if you can see the difference here. And I'm just going to go in. Actually, we want that bright. And it's totally okay. What I typically like to do is sometimes I don't like to mix my colors completely. I just like to add some definition here. So that's all I did. I just kind of took the white, this pale green. I mixed the hooker's green with the white, and I'm just adding some more definition here. I know we added this down here, so I'm going to just kind of bring that out more. And I know we added one here, so I'm going to bring that out as well. This water's getting dirty. Okay. So this is where we're at right now. We're almost there, not quite. We're gonna let our flowers dry a little bit, and we're gonna go in and kind of make, it's kind of like a bear grass. If you ever get like a flower arrangement, sometimes there's this long, wispy greenery. We're gonna do a stylized version of that. So clean brush. I'm gonna get my water. So if you guys like, please take a break because this needs to dry for like a second. If you guys use the restroom, get yourself a cup of tea, some water, clean your brush, or you want to get some clean water, please do so. I'm just gonna let our flowers dry before we go back in there. I don't want to add another flower, but we'll see. We'll see. Oops. Okay. So let's see where we are at. You can see that well. So we're almost there. We just have to add in some highlights. And I kind of want to add like another flower, but that's just me. I kind of want to add like a little spray rose, but that's just if we're feeling kind of daring. And we need to add more of our wispy grass. I'm just gonna take a look at the chat. Okay, how we're doing on the chat?
We're doing great. All we had was that color blue question, so.
Gotcha, perfect. Okay. So we still have some white left. Really, there's only 12 milliliters, but I think they should give us more. They should always put in more. So we're gonna go ahead and make our bear grass. Your paint still will be a little wet, but that's totally okay. So I'm actually gonna go with the hook. I really like this hooker's green. It's like a hunter's green, and we're gonna brighten it up with some of the lemon yellow. So same spot I had this one. We're gonna brighten it up with some yellow. All right, so what we're starting to see is my green paint actually dried up. So if that happens to you, if your paint dried up and it's getting kind of peely, just move on to a different section. So I have to clean my brush again. So let me get some more green. Again, I'm using this hunter looking green. It's called hooker's green. And I'm gonna add some yellow to brighten it up. We're gonna work with our smallest brush. I have a smaller brush, I'm gonna use that, but you guys use your smallest brush. All right, so we're mixing our green. You probably can't see it. Let me see if I can move my palette over. Sorry, folks. My palette doesn't want to move, it's like stuck to the table. Move my camera a little bit so you can see it. Oops. So I'm working right there. So I'm taking my green, we're gonna brighten it up with some yellow. Again, a lot of paint on the paintbrush, and we're gonna try to get some of that off. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna do some small wisp, stick out just like that. I'm gonna have some come out from here. I'm just starting from the flower and just going towards the outside. You can also have it curve up if you'd like. That's totally okay. Whatever you want to do. I'm actually going to do like a curvy one too. So again, with your smallest brush, we're just taking this light colored green and we're just kind of giving our arrangement some more flair. So I have it here. This one doesn't connect, so we're going to try to connect this more. And just here. This one kind of looks like there's two, so we're going to work with that. Work with what you have. If you kind of made like this bold strip, that's fine. Like I did that here, but I can kind of make it separate just by adding like some yellow, just to make it look a little different. And I'm trying to figure out where else do I want to add some. Maybe let me put more up here. Again, I'm just creating these gentle little wispy bear looking grass things. Okay. There we are. We're good here. I'm just taking a look. I was like, where else can I add green? I just love green. All right, and clean our brush. We're gonna go back using like your medium-sized brush. We're gonna go back in with some white. So what we're gonna add now is the highlights to our flowers. So I still have some white here. There's some green in there for me. I don't mind if there's some extra paint, a different color. That's all good. So with the white, same effect, we're just kind of going in and bringing out those areas. We're gonna bring out some highlights. And again, if your paint is still wet, that's actually pretty okay. That like kind of gives it the cool effect. So I'm gonna go in with some white. And again, I like having a lot of paint on my paintbrush. I like the thick application, so. Okay, just going in with the white, adding some highlights. We have some red here, so why don't we do that as well? And we do have a section here, so I can't forget about that. And maybe a little more here. Some here. And now I'm just kind of going in. I'm like, I could use some more blue. So you kind of use your discretion. If you don't want to add more, you like how it looks, that's perfectly okay. I just know I'm like, nah, let's add more. I can always, like, I don't mind. Like, I know there's some paint still left here, so I'm just like, let me add that here. Okay. Go with the white. Okay. We're gonna clean our brush. And just take a step back, take a look at your painting. I'm trying to see if there's anything else I want to add here. I see this flower. For me, I'm like looking, and just because I know like what I'm looking for, what I want, I'm like, I want another stem here. So I'm just gonna go back in with the green and kind of connect this. I kind of want that to stick out. But then I also just added that one over the white line, but I can fix that. So we're gonna go back in. And boop. There we go. In case you made a mistake, you can always fix it. And now I said we can go back in the background. So if you guys are satisfied with what you have here, you're pretty much set. I know I kind of want to go into this background and just give it some more definition, some more contrast. So I'm going to go in with a really, really grayish blue. Excuse me. So what we're going to do is, oops, I just sat in some paint. And I'm sure I just dipped my hand in paint as well. Just a moment. I'll clean off my paint tube. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm gonna make like this bluish gray. So with the white, I know that white's looking kind of dry. And like I said, you always just need kind of like just a speck of black. You don't need, oh, that's the white. Where's the black? And just like a drop of the black, too much. Like that's a lot, but we'll make it work. And again, I'm just adding more of a variation to the background. And I want like a smidge of it. I'm working on the edge of my palette. I do not recommend working on the edge of your palette. I'm gonna push paint onto the table. So here, we can use more white here. Again, I'm looking for like this grayish white, this grayish blue. So again, it's more white, a little bit of black, and you want some blue. This is just what I'm doing for the background because I just want a little contrast. And I see like some white on my brush. There we go. Oh, there's too much black on my paintbrush. That's okay. We'll make it work. Again, I'm going up and down for the wall. And I'm just going to put some water on my paintbrush to get this paint moving. I'm trying not to get too close to the flowers just because I know this was like an after effect. So just kind of go around, do your best. You don't have to, it doesn't have to be perfect. Definitely doesn't have to be perfect. But it should be how you would like it. And I'm going, like I see, like I have a spot here. Let me just kind of fill that in. I realize I have some. Here we go. All right, so I just realized I have some parts in the bottom I want to fill in. Again, going in up or downward motion, unless you're down here. Okay, so you guys have finished your painting for this evening. Please, if you can, take a picture first. You can email it. You can email it to me. I can put my email in the chat, and you guys can email us what your creations. We'd love to see them. I'm sure we would be, if you're if you would like, we can post them on our Facebook or Instagram for our virtual paint night. Again, my name is Brianna Moore, and we just paint this lovely painting together. I'm so excited you guys could join us. And for those who are watching the recording, I hope you have fun, and we hope to see you guys soon. So if you guys have any questions, please